when I think about performativity, as a historian, I start to think in terms of issues about action on the one hand, and issues of structure, repeated action. So I'll talk through a number of these things today. Here's for me one of the issues between, I think, collecting and history is this the central issue for performance, the ephemerality of it all, and the question of what's left and what the status of these things are, photographs or lack thereof, if you will. And I wanted to start by looking or thinking about a few of the kinds of performance pieces that are part of this history, and some of the challenges that are involved with them, as a way of thinking about this history in a broader sense. So the very famous Shinohara Ushio boxing paintings, of course, which come out of this period, which were initially done apparently for basically photographs for a weekly magazine. And here you see that's Shinohara there, and here's the boxing painting. It's a sheet hung on a wall in the midst of what looks like a garbage tip, but this is, in fact, the debris from various group Neo-Dada works, which are done and then pretty much killed, or left to fall apart, and you can guess what's happened to this work subsequently, although I'm sure you've seen him repeat this performance at some point. We also have the hazardous art. This is again group Neo-Dada, and where we have not just performance that does not result in a work per se, which of course is the big difference, I think, from some of this work and say Kutai, where you have performance, but at the end, here's the work, and it's preserved, it's cataloged, it's sold, it's for the most part. Whereas, and from my perspective, it's less about sort of the collecting or presentation aspect as it is. I'm interested in, what these people are doing. I'm a historian. I'm not even an art historian, but I'm interested in art, and I'm interested in this work in terms of a general interest in cultural productivity at the time and the kind of politics that it's engaged with, and just a sort of simple, straightforward question of what are these people doing and why? And so here we have the hazardous art. Here's that's Yoshimura Masanobu, who just died actually a few days ago, I believe. Oh. And he is busily swinging an axe at sheet metal, which is an extraordinarily dangerous thing to do, as you can imagine. And that's Masazawa Kimpei, who lives in New York. He's waiting for a go at this wall. And over here we have Yoshino Tatsumi inside the atelier, setting his work alight. And this is a shot prior to the small space absolutely filling with smoke. And you can see they've got some of their works hung on the walls, and it's an exhibition space as much as it is a gathering space, and not very big, and lots of wood, and he's setting it on fire. This is, there's lots of artists play at sort of destructiveness and enacting a kind of destruction. There's a non-play aspect to this. We can talk about it.
Do you invite people to that destruction?
Oh yeah, this is in the midst of they're sort of having a performance in the space, and there's always people it's a hangout place for a broad avant-garde community, one of several. Um, so it's fairly crowded, though it's going to be less crowded about 20 seconds later from smoke inhalation. Um, then, of course, there's the issue of works themselves that incorporate performance elements or that are involved in impromptu performance. So here we have, this is again in the Atelier, and that's Kazakura Sho, who died a couple years ago, and he is wearing a piece by Akasagawa Genpei, Vagina Sheets, actually. We'll show it later, which is made of these truck inner tube tires, and this is a kind of a wheel thing. And you pick up someone's artwork and wear it and proceed in your own action, and how would you catalog that? And this is, of course, Nakanishi Natsuyuki performing as part of Clothespins Assert Agitating Action. This piece is at the Tokyo Contemporary Art Museum as part of their permanent collection, but it sits there on the wall and it's nice and clean and tidy and kind of feels a little dead. Whereas at the time when this is at the Yomiuri Independent, you can tell by the little pegboard holes in the wall. When he put it up with all these different little clothespins attached to pins in the piece, he kept going and decorated himself, and then apparently he would show up and do this, and when he wasn't scaring people, would sneak up and put clips on visitors, so the piece would walk out of the museum. When I interviewed him about 2 or 3 years ago, finally got to interview him, he clipped one of those suckers to my forehead, which hurt a lot, but I'm not quite sure. I may be a part of that piece now. It's hard to tell. Anyway, yeah, there are issues.
We own a couple of those compact objects that you see.
Oh, yeah, great.
Yeah. So.
Oh, excellent. I like those a lot. Another issue from this time period, a real pervasive one, was, even in the case of sort of finely made artworks that took a lot of time to construct. This is Akasagawa Genpei here, standing on someone's shoulders to put the final touches on patient's prognosis. This is also at the Yomiuri Independent. But they make these large pieces, and this piece is, about the size of Akasagawa's apartment. We'll see inside there at the time, but basically a lot of these artists had no money and had absolutely no chance or no way to store these pieces. So what would happen is they would deconstruct them, and I don't have the final image, which is this pile of stuff being set on fire, and then you keep the mounting board because that's valuable. And, they have a shortage of material. I think this comes back in and gets 1,000 yen notes attached to it at some point.
Oh, wow.
And then, of course, there's intentional destruction or objects that would be kind of hard to house and move around in the first place. This is Toyoshima's work. These are jagged bits of glass, and these are pen tips. Actually glued on here, but it's all assembled with a water-soluble glue, and this was left outside to slowly melt as rains came and took it apart. And then, of course, there's artworks that have no there. For the 1963 Yomiuri Independent, Kazakura Sho submitted a work called Stuff Comes From Somewhere and Goes Somewhere, also known as Stuff. And it was him. It was him with his pants off, doing a performance in the gallery. He tended to get grabbed by security and ejected, but he kept repeating this thing. Behind him, though, is another performance going on. That's Kosugi Takahisa, who has, this is a bag with zippers that is hung on the wall ordinarily, but then he would come in and jump in the bag and crawl around the floor with it and take bits of clothing off or take things in. And that was entered as a sculpture. This, I believe, was entered as a painting. Some of these categories get very interesting at the MBR, but that's worth thinking about too.